the long-awaited report lays out in disturbing detail the tragic sequence of events that led to Elijah McClain's death.
911, what is the address of the emergency?
The report begins by criticizing the initial stop.
Hey, stop right there.
As we reported, 3 Aurora police officers stopped Elijah McClain on the street after receiving a 911 call about a suspicious person wearing a mask. The report questioned why police turned, quote, what may have been a consensual encounter with Mr. McClain into an investigatory stop, a decision the report says did not appear to be supported by any officer's reasonable suspicion that Mr. McClain was engaged in criminal activity. Stan Garnett is the former Boulder County DA.
And I think it's an example of kind of a perfect storm of really bad decisions being made.
The report goes on to question the officer's account that McClain's violent behavior escalated the encounter, saying that the limited video and audio from the body-worn cameras reveal Mr. McClain surrounded by officers, all larger than he, crying out in pain, apologizing, explaining himself, and pleading with the officers. Lonnie Scheibel is a criminal justice professor at CU Denver.
And I do think that the officers probably jumped in quicker than they needed to, considering there was no evidence of a crime occurring prior.
So the ambulance gets here, we're going to go ahead and give them
Yeah, sounds good.
The 153-page report also criticizes the paramedics' decision to inject McClain with the sedative ketamine after officers used a neck hold, forcibly took McClain to the ground, and handcuffed him. Paramedics said they used the sedative because McClain had excited delirium. The report questions if that was the appropriate diagnosis, concluding that Aurora Fire appears to have decided to sedate Mr. McClain without conducting anything more than brief visual observation.
He was on the ground, he was handcuffed, he was contained.
The city of Aurora commissioned the report last summer, looking for suggested policy changes, but not recommendations about discipline. The authors did, in fact, recommend that Aurora police undertake a thorough review of its use of force policy. It also calls for a thorough review of Aurora Fire's protocols, policies, and trainings related to patient sedation. And it recommends that the city of Aurora assess the training and supervision of major crime detectives as it relates to the investigation of potential criminal misconduct by police officers. A few months after McClain's death, the Adams County DA declined to press charges against any of the officers involved. 2 of them are still on the job. Tom?
All right, Matt. Of course, there are other investigations going on as well. As far as this one, we're now hearing the community on this report as well. And Nelson Garcia is live at the site of Elijah McClain's memorial. Nelson, what have you heard today?
Tom, I spoke to a friend of Elijah McClain's family and an organizer of the protest, which sparked after the confrontation that occurred right here on Billing Street in August 2019, the events that led to McClain's death. His memorial still remains 18 months later. Candace Bailey says McClain's mother and relatives are not saying anything right now, but as a self-described community actionist, she says she's outraged over a report that shows the city of Aurora is just checking off boxes. The officers involved are still employed, no charges have been filed, Aurora Fire paramedics still on the job. But an organizer from many of the rallies in Aurora over McClain's death sees it differently.
It removes, what we've seen, the Aurora Police Department, the Aurora Fire Department, the city, all saying, oh, we don't have what we need to fire these officers. It's not within our power. That's what we've been hearing for 18 months. Well, that's gone now. We want to see them fired now, today.
You think that you can come and tell us what should have happened, could have happened, and would have happened makes sense? It doesn't, because none of that happened. Coulda, shoulda, woulda is out the window.
Bailey says real change needs to be made within Aurora Police and Fire, not just the release of a report. In less than an hour, Aurora Mayor and City Council will be getting together to talk about these findings. Tom?
All right, Nelson, thanks. Of course, this continues to be a developing story. We'll check back in with you coming up at 5 o'clock. We've been talking for a while now about the death toll